All right. Hello? Can you hear me? Is it better? Okay, I'm not used to the mic, so. All right, so good evening, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to deliver these opening words today at this fabulous event. Sorry for the inconvenience, what a provocative title. So I want to thank Michelle and Bella for organizing such a spectacular 4-day feminist exhibition celebrating International Women's Day. It's truly inspiring to see this over 20 local and international artists, performers, photographers, musicians, painters, filmmakers, and activists gathered together in this unique space in Trondheim. An army of women, to borrow the words of Ellen Mack, one of the amazing artists showing her work here today. An army of feminist killjoys who've used their hands, their arms, their bodies to make this exhibition possible. Anti-racist theorist Sara Ahmed reminds us that arms are shaped by history. Arms make history flesh. Intersectionality is arm. Intersectionality is arming. So that is why I wanted to open my speech with an image of my mother's hands, my mother's arms. So this photograph was taken by a Spanish photographer in 1977 when she was 20, and that was 2 years before she had me. So it was published in a series of photographs titled Agur, which in Basque means adios, in Spanish, I guess. So paradoxically, this photo is not a goodbye for me. This is where my politics of location begin. This is where I position my situated knowledges and my affects. So honoring my mother together with the work of Sara Ahmed, the title of my short speech today is Sorry, Not Sorry, the paradoxical joys of becoming a feminist killjoy. So I'll talk for a few minutes while I show you some images of those feminist, queer, and trans visual artists, theorists, writers who have taught me every day the pains and the pleasures of being a feminist killjoy. So I wanted to begin with a quote by Charles Dickens, but I started to feel very uneasy about it. I felt irresponsible about taking up this space, a feminist space, with the words of a white Victorian man. And by a white man, I refer to an institution, and this is what Sara Ahmed does. So I decided to erase it because, and I quote, citation is feminist memory. Citation is how we acknowledge our debt to those who came before, those who helped us find their way when the way was obscure, because we deviated from the paths we were told to follow. So there's my new epigraph. That my agency is riven with paradox does not mean it is impossible. It only means that paradox is the condition of its possibility. That's from Libe. So these are paradoxical times for feminism. We live in a moment of puzzling unpredictability. Neo-fascisms, transphobia, hatred against women, and ultra-nationalistic impulses proliferate in tandem with unprecedented social mobilization and creative possibility. The first 2 decades of the 21st century have seen the exhilarating effects of grassroots initiatives such as the indigenous Idle No More in Canada, the ongoing Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, all attesting to the vitalism of anti-capitalist, anti-racist, feminist, queer, and trans mobilization. So it's absolutely amazing to see how the arts respond to these calls for action. We have work here from Sweden, Draw the Line, which is a comic book project conceived in the wake of Me Too. The unstoppable force of these political and artistic movements indicates that these are not ephemeral glimpses of change or easily digestible forms of activism. Instead, I read these organized protests as complex assemblages of unpredictable force, as malleable sites of cultural, socio-political, and ethical transformation. And I come from Spain, which is a rather paradoxical country, that is experiencing a resurgence of extreme right-wing pseudo-politicians proposing some of the most repressive laws against women and their bodies. So then I'm thinking of female activists who are also part of today's exhibition, and how they were occupying the entrance to the Spanish Ministry of Equality in Madrid a month ago with the slogan, "Machismo es terrorismo," denouncing that 10 women have been killed in Spain as a result of sexist violence this year, and it's early March. So we can see the rage. I feel that rage. So let's look at how rage can prompt us to act. Think about the legacies of black feminists such as Audre Lorde and bell hooks who've taught us so much about the uses of anger to respond to racism, to respond to sexism. Think about the trans artists and writers such as Cassels or Kai Chen Thom, whose fierce work pushes audiences to reorient normative gazes and look at bodies that are largely invisibilized while marked by multiple violences. Think of the revolutionary work in the field of indigenous feminism, and we're privileged to have Amanda Fayan's work as part of this exhibition. Hers is an urgent call to address the missing and murdered Indigenous women genocide in Canada. Consider the innovations from feminist, post-humanist angles, and I love Patricia Piccinini's work, I'm sure you do as well. Artists who beg us to rethink relationality with more than human worlds and imagine a post-anthropocentric scene. We have a very original piece on transhumanism here by Matt Velling as well here today. I want you also to consider the transformative work of Afrofuturist artists. And here is an image of Wangeci Mutu's work, which for me represents what intergenerational and intersectional feminism looks like, an army of feminist arms. And I talked about rage before, but I do find joy here as well. So for me, feminist philosopher Braidotti always has the answer. Feminism is joyful insurrection, she says. So the way I see it, the act of being a feminist killjoy means becoming an obstacle or an interruption to episodes of sexist exchange, racial discrimination, and compulsory heteronormativity. These moments disrupt the system momentarily, thus becoming instances of dissent and disorientation. You are not following the right path, you're breaking the flow. So I want to invite you all to consider these moments precisely as moments of joyful insurrection. By being a killjoy, you're actually enacting and enabling the possibility of a form of joyful insurrection to emerge. So I would then like to advocate a full embrace of joy as a radical mode of action for feminist scholarship, activism, and art today. So think of the feminist irony, sarcasm, dissidence at the core of guerrilla girls' activism for the last 20 years, for instance. Think of the techno-feminist irreverence of Chicks and Speed, who are also part of our exhibition. So what can I say but sorry, not sorry. Feminist, joyful descent up, I guess. So to conclude, tomorrow is International Women's Day. Balance for Better is one of the campaign's slogans. So what does this mean? For me, it means a day to slow down, a day to pause and think about the fierce, feminist, queer, trans, anti-racist thinkers, activists, writers, students out there. A day to pause and think about the material and affective dimensions of our labor. A day to pause and think about how to continue devising feminist methodologies to keep us alive, healthy, thriving, joyful, together. A day to work hand in hand, arm in arm, with paradox and uncertainty as feminist method. For me, I guess it's also a day to pause and think about how to raise my son as a feminist in this troubled world. And I mean, look at his face. This was the time when we met Sarah Ahmed and she signed Living a Feminist Life for him. So he's terrified. So a day, after all, to pause and think about how to live a feminist life with uncertainty and paradox and not drown. Thank you. Enjoy the exhibition.